Hi, everyone. We'll be starting in just a minute. We're going to give everybody a few more minutes here, maybe another minute or so to kind of join in. But thank you again for joining us today. And we'll be getting started just in a moment. Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm James Harris, and this is Kevin Lay from the RaceJoy team, and we're really excited to show you a little bit about and review map building for RaceJoy today. So this session is really intended to provide a refresher of setting up RaceJoy for your events using our latest tools for race map building. We have added some new tools, and so we'll be reviewing those today. So you may be a timer that's already using RaceJoy for your events, or perhaps you're a timer who's attended the certification this past year and you're just now getting ready to offer RaceJoy for your events, and so you want this refresher. Or perhaps you're a timer that's looking to become Race Day certified at our upcoming Winter Symposium and offer RaceJoy as a service for your events. So this session is intended and will provide you with all the information needed to enable and set up RaceJoy for your events. So again, I'm James Harris, and this is Kevin. We're part of your Race Day team, and we'll be, between the two of us, kind of taking you through this refresher. So as a refresher, we're going to just first talk about enabling RaceJoy for your event. And you access RaceJoy from your race dashboard, and you simply follow the steps shown under setup. You first select the different course path options that you will be building your maps for. You will select flat buyout. You will enter in the approximate number of participants, and then you will enter in your Race Day certified person and email address for the invoice me option. The purchase buyout prompt will show the adjusted amount based upon your Race Day certified account. If you don't see an adjusted amount on the buyout prompt, then we ask you to please review your timer dashboard and see if you have a valid Race Day suite license, and check out your certification status on your timer dashboard. Any questions, always we're available at info@racejoy.com. And so let me just briefly show that, on an actual race. So here's a race, and this one, Kevin will be showing more details about choosing your different registration options. But the main thing is understand you only need to enable the paths based upon the paths that you're going to be loading. You don't need to enable all the different registration events. Again, as a Race Day certified timer, you should enable to have your results displayed in RaceJoy, and so you would click on Enable Mobile Results in the RaceJoy experience. Moving on to the screen, you'll choose the flat buyout, enter an approximate number of participants. So that's what happened to my keyboard. So my keyboard went off. That's what was going on. Let's see. I don't have a way. So anyways, yeah, my keyboard kind of whacked out here. So anyways, you would enter in your participants, and then you would select the invoice me option here, okay, like we're showing here. And if I could put in a number here, then I would be able to get past this field, but I can't. And then you'll purchase the buyout. You'll get a prompt at this point. It will show the adjusted amount based upon your certified account. And again, if it doesn't show what you're expecting based upon your certified account, then just check out your timer dashboard and make sure that your Race Day suite license is all in effect. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it today. And Kevin's going to be walking us through how to set up your maps, get your event live in RaceJoy, and he'll be taking us through those steps now.
All right, thanks, James. So to review, we're just going to kind of get right into it. The map building steps you'll need to take are as follows. You'll want to enable your events, load in your course routes, generate markers, set up your timing configuration, And then you'll want to review course for any proximity and out and back issues. And then you'll want to certify your map. Once you certify all of your course maps, your event is then made live in RaceJoy. So let's kind of get into it, kind of the first step here. So you want to enable your events, head over to your RunSignup Race dashboard, go to the RaceJoy tab, click Setup, and then select the appropriate events to enable. So you only really need to enable distinct courses, as James said. So distinct courses are like your half marathons, your marathons, and your relays, and like your 5Ks. You don't need, if you have any variations on registration, so like corporate team registration marathon or like pacer team half marathon, you don't actually need to enable those specific events. So we'll kind of walk you through some examples here. And so if you're looking at your race dashboard here, you'll select the RaceJoy tab and then select Setup. So here's kind of like an example of what we were talking about here. So we have, in this example, we have a half marathon race, corporate team half marathon, marathon, corporate team marathon, and a marathon relay. So we only need to enable the half marathon, marathon, and the relay event. We don't need to enable the corporate team events since those participants will be running the exact same course as the half marathon. So again, just to review, you only want to enable events that are distinct in courses. So in this example here, this is a real race that happened last weekend. They had a virtual race, which you don't need to enable, and then also a pacer team for the half and for the full marathon. So you can see those events were not enabled. So once you have your course, once you have your events enabled, the next step is to load in your course maps. So you'll be able to export your maps using any map builder tools such as MapMyRun or Plotter Route. We like to use Google Earth, and then you'll load each course route in KML or GPX format. If you're configuring ultras or relays, you'll need to do, you'll want to combine your separate leg segments into one single GPX or KML path. And then you can find more information about ultra and relay instructions by going to our relay and ultra webinar. So if you guys don't know where to find our stack of webinars, if you head over to the runsignup.com homepage, if you go to learning and then webinars, you'll be able to see all of our recorded webinars from RunSignup and all of our race day team recordings here. So you can see that we've got relay teams here, and we've got some advanced mapping here. So feel free to check those out if you're going to be using RaceJoy for relays, and there's some good instructions there on how to set those up. All right, so once you've got your course loaded in, the next thing you'll need to do is generate your markers. So by default, we generate every mile for running events. And for bike events, you'll have to change that to every 5 miles. So these markers can be regenerated at any time. You can select actions and then recalculate mile positions. This is pretty handy if you accidentally move a mile marker totally off course and you kind of forgot where mile 12 was. You can just go ahead and use those actions and recalculate positions button to move all the mile markers back to the GPS calculations. So once you get your markers generated, just remember to save your map. You can be hearing me say this a lot throughout this presentation. It's just to always remember to save your map. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you were doing all your homework, your teachers always say, save your work. Kind of the same premise here. So you've got your markers generated. The next thing to do is you always want to make sure that each marker location is accurate to your certification or the signage that you'll be placing on the course. We want to provide a consistent ground experience for participants. And so that also includes your start and finish markers. So you also want to make sure your start and finish markers are in the right location. As timers, you guys are putting down the start and finish mats, so you guys know exactly where those are. So we kind of rely on you guys to make sure that those markers are in the right spot. So just remember here that we calculate our mile markers based on GPS distance. So obviously that may vary from the actual distance. So it's kind of just, you always want to make sure when we calculate based on GPS distance, going on there. So when you calculate based on GPS distance, you always want to make sure you're matched up to kind of what the persons are going to see with their own eyes. So you can drag markers to the correct location as needed. We provide a handful of nifty tools to ensure that the markers can be placed in the most accurate spots. You can use satellite, road, or street view. So let's kind of take a look at that and kind of see that whole process of loading in a course, generating your mile markers, and just making sure the markers are in the right spots there. So if you, on your race dashboard, if you head over to RaceJoy tab and then select Maps, you can come into, we're going to load in a half marathon course here for this example here. So to load in a course, you'll just select Actions, Import Map Path, find the file for your course. And so this is where you're going to generate markers. Again, by default, we're doing it every mile. If this was a bike event, you would simply click on here and change this into every 5 miles. So go ahead and generate every mile. So at this point, we've got everything. We've got our course loaded in, markers have been generated, and then we can just make sure that the course, all the mile markers are in the right spots. So, hypothetically, you can come in here and let's just say in your certification, your mile 12 is actually going to be on this corner right here. You can simply click onto the marker and drag it across. Now, let's say you accidentally moved mile marker 12 all the way, to that location. Let's say you accidentally did that and you need to move mile 12 back to the GPS measurement. You can just come in here and hit Actions, recalculate mile positions, and we'll hit Generate, and that'll move mile 12 back to the original spot. So again, to show kind of how we can use satellite and street view to make sure the mile markers are placed in the correct spot. If you come in here and click satellite, you can zoom in nice and close. And let's say, your certification says, right at this corner is where mile 12 is. You can just come in here, zoom in, and move it right to that corner right there. Now you can also use Street View. There are a lot of certifications out there that say like, mile 12 is at the second manhole cover from the street corner. Obviously in satellite view, you can't really get that, that zoomed in on the maps. So if you come in here, select this man right here, click and drag him onto the course. And I think I missed it there. So if we click and drag right to there, drop them here. So now we're on this, we're in Street View here, and you can see where mile 12 was originally placed. So there, if your certification said mile 12 is at the telephone pole right before the intersection, we can see that this telephone pole is located right here. And even in Street View, you can click on the marker and move the marker right to the exact spot you need it to be. And then if you come up here and click this back button, you can see that mile marker 12 got moved to that exact location. So we'll go ahead and move mile 12 back to the original location there. Okay. All right, so once you've got your markers generated, at this point, we've got the course loaded in, markers have been generated, and they've been placed in the right location. So now we'll have to configure those markers so that they fire or read in the correct sequence. So remember that we use distance to sequence the order at which each marker will fire. So you can use the autofill distance and will automatically fill in the distance at each mile marker. You will need to manually type in the finish distance. And for relays, there are a couple extra steps in this process, including that you have to change the processing type, you have to add exchange points, but we'll cover how to add additional markers. But again, if you have any specific questions on how to set up relays and ultras, definitely check out those webinars. There are great tools there for you. So once you've got your autofill distance and you've manually typed in your finish distance, go ahead and hit save. Save your configuration, and then you can save your map. So let's take a look at how to set up your timing configuration. So in your map here, you'll go ahead and select timing configuration and just go ahead and select autofill distance. So you can see we automatically populate the distance for the start through mile 13. And we just have to come in here and type in 13.1. I think my keyboard is also having some issues there as well. So we'll go ahead and save. There we go. So we've saved our configuration. We'll go ahead and save our map here. So for the most part, this could be kind of exactly all you need to do for some races. If obviously the next steps we'll take a look at is reviewing if there's any proximity or out and back issues, but if there aren't any issues addressed at this point, you're pretty much done setting up your RaceJoy maps. But let's take a look into kind of the next step that you'll have to do, which is again reviewing for the two types of issues that you'll see on RaceJoy. The first one we're going to talk about is proximity issues. And when I go through the example, I'll kind of explain proximity issues a little bit more, so it's more visual. So you can use the toggle marker radius tool to view if there is a proximity issue at each marker. If a proximity issue is identified, you can adjust the radius column in the timing configuration for that marker. And then you can drop the radius as low as 25 meters. And then we'll obviously discuss if you how to add an intermediate marker if proximity can't be set low enough. So let's back out and take a look at our course map and see if we can determine if there's a proximity issue here. So if you come into actions and you select on toggle marker radius and you zoom in, you can basically see the radius or the read field of each marker. So basically what we're looking for is additional part of the course where it's going to run through each of those read fields. So we're looking here, we're not seeing anything here, not seeing any issues here. If we come down here, you see that mile 3's radius has two parts of the course running through it. So if we back out and we kind of examine how the runners are going to be running this course, they're going to come down here, they'll run through mile 2 here, they'll come down here, and when they reach this location, they're really only at around mile 2.8. And since this part of this path here is in mile 3's radius, when participants reach mile 2.8, they're going to get an alert saying, you know, you've crossed mile 3, here's your estimated finish time, so on and so forth. So that's obviously incorrect since they have to come all the way down, go around, and when they're coming back up is when they really hit mile 3. So to fix this, it's pretty easy. We just want to drop this radius so that it doesn't include this side of this part of the path. So if you come into your timing configuration, go into mile 3, and we change this to 25. Oops. Change this to 25, and we hit save. We can now see that the radius has dropped. So now when participants are running on coming down here and they reach 2.8, they're not in the radius or the read field of marker of mile 3, so they won't get an early alert. That's a pretty straightforward one on how to solve a proximity issue there. Again, once you get that fixed, go ahead and save your map. Always just good to save your work in case you need to go back. So the next issue we're going to take a look at is an out and back or looped issue. So recall that an out and back issue is when participants get an early alert at a milestone, and that early alert cannot be solved by dropping the proximity of that mile marker. So we've released this cool new little tool here that'll allow you to calculate distance of markers. The idea is that it'll help determine if there is an out and back issue for you. So if you take a look at the screenshots here, you can see when we click on mile 9 and select calculate distance, RaceJoy has already determined that that mile 9 marker is at a distance of 8.2 and 9 miles in, meaning the first time runners cross mile 9, they're really only at 8.2, and they don't reach mile 9 until their second pass. So this means we have an out and back issue, and obviously we can't drop the radius from mile 9 to 0 because when they come back, they obviously won't get a read. So to fix an out and back situation here, we'll have to add an intermediate timing marker. This process is also how you add exchange points and relay courses as well. So to add an intermediate timing point, first select the pin tool on the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And with that pin tool selected, click on the location to drop the pin. Then go back and select the hand tool in the upper right-hand corner and click onto the drop pin. From there, you'll complete your marker setup by naming the marker, selecting a layer category, selecting an icon, and then if you want, you can enter in any content, graphics, and links. And then you'll save your marker and then save your map. So reminder with these markers that we're adding, these intermediate timing points, they're not geo-cheer messages. So if you want to learn how to add markers that have messages that get sent to the participants, definitely check out our how-to on how to add geo-cheer markers. So let's dive deeper into this marker setup. So to complete the marker setup, again, you'll name the marker and you'll set the layer category. So for all of these intermediate timing locations, you'll want to set this category to mile marker. For exchange points in a relay race, you would set the exchange location category to start and finish, since the exchange point is technically the finish for one leg and the start of another. And then go ahead and select the visual icon. And then again, if you want, enter in a title. And then if you want, you can add additional content, graphics, and links for that marker. And then you can use the calculate distance button to determine the distance location of that marker. Again, you'll need this when you're setting up your configuration. And then go ahead and save your marker and then save your map. So this segues nicely into your configuration setup for this intermediate timing point. Again, remember that we sequence the order of how each marker fires based on the distance. So now you'll want to enter in the distance of the marker that was calculated using that distance measurement tool we talked about. And then you'll want to turn off progress alerts and audio pace for that for the intermediate timing point marker. We don't want participants and spectators to get an alert when this milestone is passed. This is strictly for internal uses to make sure they don't get an early alert at mile 9. So let's take a look at how we can identify an out and back issue, and then how we can solve an out and back issue here. So if we come into here, we know that participants come running up past 6 and then past mile 7 here. They run past mile 8, they come all the way down, they turn around, and then they hit mile 9. So we don't really know for sure. Obviously, visually, you can tell that mile 8 and mile 9 are very close, but you can never confirm that with the naked eye. So if we click onto mile 9 and select calculate distance, RaceJoy basically will tell you that mile 9 is at that marker is at 8.2 miles into the race and also at 9 miles into the race. So what does that mean? That means when participants come here and they run past mile 8, the first time they hit this marker, they're really only 8.2 miles in. And when they come all the way down, when they turn around, that's when they really hit mile 9. So we obviously can't drop the radius of this marker down to 0. That would affect their second pass since they won't get an alert. So to solve this, as we talked about, we have to add an intermediate timing point after mile 9. So to do that, we'll click on this tool right up here, this pin tool. Go ahead and click on that. It'll become highlighted. And then just come into your map and just drop your pin. Go ahead and drop that in. As you can tell, I added 2. And then come back up here and select your hand tool and click onto the marker. And we'll go ahead and name this marker. And then we'll select the mile marker category. and then we'll select the stopwatch icon. Go ahead and save that mark, and we'll take a look here really quick. So we have mile marker mile 8.5, category is mile marker. We've got this stopwatch here, and we've got the title, mile 8.5. Here under additional details and pop-up image and links, this is where you can add additional content if you wanted to. We'll kind of dive a little deeper into this later on in my presentation here. So we've got the marker added onto the course. So the next thing we'll have to do is we'll have to configure this specific marker. So if we click onto this marker here and we select calculate distance, it tells us that this marker is at distance 8.5 and 8.7, meaning that as runners come through, the first time they hit this marker will be 8.5. As they come back all the way down and back around, they'll be at 8.7. We typically like to use the first pass as kind of where we're going to be setting up this turnaround point. So we'll go ahead and use the distance of 8.5 here. So if you click on the marker and you hit calculate distance, so we want to use this 8.5 distance. So if you go ahead and click 8.5, what we'll do is we'll copy that number into your clipboard. So then when you come into your timing configuration, you simply have to come in here and just paste in what we copied for you, which was the distance. And let's see if that got saved. Good, so that got saved in. And so the last thing we want to do is we want to turn off progress alerts and audio pace for that intermediate timing point. Again, we don't want spectators and participants to be getting alert at this marker. This is strictly so that we can fix the out and back issue that we're seeing at mile 9. So go ahead and check off progress alerts and check off audio pace and hit save configuration. And then you can close out of that. And then again, you can save your map there. So the last thing you'll want to do is you'll just want to certify your map. Remember, you have to certify all of your maps in order for your race to go live on RaceJoy. So if you have your half marathon and your marathon, just be sure to certify both of those courses in order for it to be live in the app. So quickly go over kind of how to do that, kind of what it looks like here. So simply just click on the certify button here and then just hit confirm, and that'll get your map certified. And once you've done that across all of your events, that'll get everything live within the app. So just a quick recap of the map building process. You'll enable your race, and then you'll upload and adjust your course maps, generate your markers, set up your timing configuration, review for proximity and out and back issues, and then certify your race. I do want to make a note here. We do require that when you enable your events for RaceJoy, that it must be 5 or more days before the race date. We don't want you guys to be enabling your race the night before the race. We think 5 days is enough time, and it'll be able to you'll be able to market RaceJoy out to your participants, and they'll be able to set up their profiles. And we think that gives the participants enough time to kind of get themselves ready and get themselves set up within the app. So race weekend adjustments, again, this is really, really important here. So course map accuracy is mandatory for progress alerts to function properly. So we need to have the correct maps loaded into RaceJoy. If there are any last minute changes, just be sure and remember to update your RaceJoy maps to reflect these changes. You guys are the eyes and ears on this race. So you guys hopefully the race directors will kind of inform you guys when changes are coming. And if there's any last minute changes, they'll let you know, and then you can go ahead and update those courses on RaceJoy. So lastly, we'll discuss a few other RaceJoy considerations. So these will include adding extra markers like kind of water stops, medical tents, any like post-race entertainment and stuff like that. We'll talk about the importance of race day monitoring, and then we'll also talk about how you can share these interactive maps on your RunSignup race page, and either through social media, emails, or even to your own HTML websites there. So let's talk about adding extra markers. So these markers are non-timing markers. So they can be race related. As I mentioned earlier, they can be water stops, medical stations, post-race entertainment. You can also highlight local vendors and sponsors. So kind of with the water stops and medical stops that I was talking about, when you add these, it can be super helpful for volunteers to have a map to find the location of the nearest water or medical stop when they're out in the course. So these markers are shown by default in the app, however, do not show in monitoring. So that gives you a nice efficient display of tracking. So adding extra markers, it's very similar to adding intermediate timing point. The key difference really is the layer category. So we'll go through the same process of adding a marker by using that pin tool to add the marker, and then you'll complete the marker setup and you'll set the layer category to the appropriate category that particular marker falls under. I'll go through a scenario on how to add a water stop, so you'll see kind of how many categories we have. You'll select an icon and then enter in any content, graphics, and links. For these types of markers, adding these additional details and links and pop-up image is kind of a fun little tool that we give you guys. So kind of like in this screenshot here, you can see that for this water stop, if you add a detail about what kind of water is available, or Mountain Berry, there's like Powerade stuff available. And then if a water stop is sponsored, you can add an image of the sponsor logo. You can add a link to the sponsor. Just a lot of ways you can market your mile markers for sponsors. Again, these markers are non-timing markers. So they're not set up for timing purposes, and they're not set up to convey a message like our GeoCheer messages. Again, you can view our how-to video on how to add GeoCheer markers. But this is just strictly for kind of making your map nice and pretty, and then just adding additional race-related information there. So we'll go ahead and kind of show you guys how to add a water stop here. So let's say you have a water stop right here at this corner on 2nd Ave. Go ahead and click on the pin tool, drop your marker, select the hand tool back up here. We'll click onto the marker here, and let's name this water stop number 1. Your category here will be water stop, and you can see we have packet pickup, your medical, and any restaurants, attractions. We have a whole list of categories that you can select from. So for this example, we'll select the water stop category. We'll select this icon here, and we'll change our title to water stop 1. I'm just going to save this so I can see what I did there sometimes. There we go. So here in this additional detail, we can add, maybe glacier, freeze, Gatorade available. And here you can add an image, and you can add a link if that particular stop was sponsored by a company there. Another cool feature here, really quick, is you can preview kind of what that marker looks like. So if you click this preview share button and then select preview mobile app, it'll help if I save the map first. And then we can come in here and we can see what this marker looks like in the app. So if you click on this the water stop marker, you can see that we've got that additional detail available again. So just to convey more messaging and some information out to your participants there. Again, just make sure you're saving your map after kind of everything you're doing here. Just good practice to be able to save all of your work here. So now let's talk about race day monitoring. This is something we haven't really talked a lot about, but monitoring is extremely crucial so that you can ensure map accuracy and know if any adjustments are needed during the race. With monitoring, you can track lead, tail vehicles, and you can even track your race staff. Tracking race staff is super helpful. If you have like an emergency out on the course and you know the emergency is going on at between mile 2 and 3, you can come into your RaceJoy monitoring and be like, all right, I know Tommy Smith, who's one of my volunteers, is 2 blocks away from where it's going on. So you can get a hold of Tommy and ask him to kind of take care of the emergency on the course there. And then you can see with monitoring, you can see off-course alerts. You can use route replay to verify the participants have run the correct path, and then you can access the individual participant performance data. And then you can review progress board to monitor the status of the race. So to access your race day monitoring window, you can head over to your RunSignup dashboard and select RaceJoy and then race day monitoring. Then select the course you wish to monitor. So to monitor a multiple course, so like a half marathon, marathon, and a 5K, you will need to open up a different window for each course. So by default, we show active non-finished participants. You can select course actions, and then participants search to filter the selected participants or teams. So if you only wanted to track, Team Tommy, you can just go into that participant search and search for everyone that's under that particular team, and then add those people to your monitoring view. You can also select course actions progress board to show your leaderboard based on tracked phones. So we'll kind of take a look at kind of what a monitoring view looks like. So if you come into RaceJoy here and then monitoring, we'll go into race day monitoring here. You can see you can select your courses up here. And so this is by default, we're showing all active non-finished runners. Obviously, this race happened this past weekend, so technically everyone is not active anymore. So if this is checked on and during the race, you'll see a bunch of blue dots traveling along the course and running the course. If you click, so you can come into course actions here and do a participant search. So this is where you can search by certain names or bib numbers or teams. And if you want to add those particular individuals, you just come in here and select add, and then you would hit done. And then you can also come back in here, and if you want to remove people, you can just hit the delete, and we'll go ahead and remove them from your view. So to view kind of the route replay, like we talked about here, let's say we're tracking this gentleman here, Robert. If we click onto his profile, we can see all of his passes and what time they came through. So this is super helpful and super cool for you to see kind of how the participant is doing and kind of where they're at on the course. And then if you click participant actions, replay path, you'll see the orange replay of basically what he was running. So this is really great and really important to use while monitoring. Sometimes we've seen where volunteers have accidentally led participants down the wrong path, or maybe they turned the participants around too early. And you can really diagnose those issues by using the route replay. And if you come into course actions here and progress board, it'll show you the progress board and your leaderboard based on the tracked phones here. So you can see everyone's passes at each mile marker and the timestamp and everything like that. So the last thing we'll discuss today is sharing interactive maps. So by default, once you certify your maps, your RaceJoy maps will show on your RunSignup race page under a custom section called course maps. You don't have to do anything. It's just once you get it certified, we automatically create the custom section for you. And and your RaceJoy maps are available on your RunSignup page. So these maps are easily maintained year over year. Your maps will copy over automatically once you enable RaceJoy the following year. We also give you the ability to share or embed your maps on your own website. In the map builder, if you select preview and share, you can either copy and paste a shareable link for emails, PDFs, or social media, or you can copy the HTML code and paste that into your website. So we'll take a look really quickly kind of what that looks like. So we'll take a look here. So this was the course we were taking the race we were taking a look at. So by default, you can see this course maps section was created automatically here. And if you click view course maps, you can see your RaceJoy maps all on your RunSignup race page here. And if you come to back to your map builder, if you select preview and share, you can copy and paste this shareable link here to, like I said, emails, PDFs, or social media. And if you have access to your HTML code for your website, you can copy this code here to embed onto your website. So just great ways to share your maps. And again, since these maps are, once you update these maps on your RunSignup race page, those maps will automatically get updated. So really easy and a cool little feature we have there.
Thank you, Kevin. That was really great. And as we said at the beginning, this was meant to be a refresher for our timers that have been looking to add RaceJoy to their events, or maybe you're thinking about becoming certified at the Symposium. And so there are more advanced training sessions out there for the ultra relays and everything on the webinar site. And also coming out this week is the GeoCheer video, which will be out there. So if you're looking to add geo-based messages at key milestones along the course, we'll have a little video out there for you for that training. So let's first review some of the typical questions that have been coming up. And we also invite you at this point to ask any questions you have in the questions panel on your GoToWebinar chat tool there. And if you have any questions, we'll kind of cover that during this section also. So one of the first questions is, I want to test a course. I want to see how it's going to perform. I want to hear what the participants are going to hear. How can I do that? So testing courses ahead of the actual event, as a timer, you can do this very easily. You just create a test race with your timer name, put the word test in the name of the race. It just helps us know that you're using it in that regard. And then using that test race, you can schedule different event courses to occur and load in the path that you want to ride or run. Again, you can jump on the bike and go through it, or even a golf cart, or however you want to kind of test it out. Please note though, if you are going to drive the course in a fast-moving vehicle, RaceJoy may not perform as it would for bikes and runners and normal endurance events. RaceJoy has optimized our GPS usage for endurance events in order to conserve battery. And so the sampling and how the algorithms work is not like a navigation GPS system. And so if you're going to drive the course in a fast-moving vehicle, you may not get all the progress alerts and everything happen the way it would normally happen in the actual endurance event. So yeah, it does happen. We've had it happen a few times this year already with some certified timers. You have an event coming up, it's just a few days out. What can we do? Just contact us at info@racejoy.com and we can see about getting it enabled for you. As Kevin mentioned, and we'd really want to note here, is that we have found that when we enable events 1 or 2 days right before, it's just not a great experience in terms of what usage you get. There's just little time to get the word out through your email, your social media, your website promotion that live tracking is being offered, and so the usage is going to be affected. And so definitely want to try to get it enabled at least a week out, and that gives an opportunity for participants to know that this type of tracking is available for your event. So when it comes to poor cell conditions, we are designed to work across poor cell areas on your course. It's a key thing to understand is that the participant is carrying a phone that has all the information resident on the phone. So they're going to continue to hear every mile split alert based upon your course that you certified and put out. They're also going to hear any off-course alerts if you have that enabled on that course. And then once the phone comes back into service, those alerts will be forwarded to friends and family, and they will receive them. They may be delayed, but for those portions of the course that have no cell, but it's still a great value in the overall tracking experience for spectators. They're still getting a lot more information, a lot more capability to see what's happening and where the people are that they care about. So another thing I want to mention at this point is that we're in development right now. We're really excited about what's going to happen in 2020. We're really working on what we call cell data independence for RaceJoy. And this is where the course maps themselves and the ability to do everything is actually kept on the phone, regardless of whether or not you have cellular data service. So this will be really great for large races where you have 17,000, 20,000 people coming in for a start of a race. You have a lot of cell congestion. You have cell data providers that can't manage, the bandwidth. A vast majority of the participants will have everything on their phone, and they'll be able to start their tracking, and they'll be able to see themselves on the map and kind of get started without having to deal with cell data congestion. And then, of course, this will be very important for remote trail events where you have very spotty coverage at exchange points or even at the start. So we're really excited about this development in RaceJoy and look for that coming soon. So let's see if there was any questions from our attendees. And great. So again, just follow us up with questions. If you have any questions offline, just send them to info@racejoy.com. That's your info box for RaceJoy, and Kevin or myself or somebody will be answering your questions for that. Lastly, we did want to invite everyone to join us this winter in sunny Florida in January for the RunSignup Winter Symposium. It really is a great opportunity to get the most advanced training on all the different tools and systems that are provided by RunSignup, and specifically the race day suite for the timers. There will be advanced tracks for timers that are already certified, and that will lead to an advanced certification status that we'll be offering as part of the Winter Symposium. The other key thing, we'll be rolling out version 2 of race day scoring. So it's an opportunity to get training on the latest version of race day scoring, which has aggregate scoring, corrals, waves. A lot of things have been added for version 2, and we'll be doing training on that. If you haven't tried out race day scoring, this is a really great opportunity to come and kind of really start to get deeper into it and make those decisions about where you're going to go in the future. There will be advanced map building and a lot of other things in the track, so a lot to offer for timers. If you get an opportunity to come down in January, that would be great. And then again, for those timers that have not gained a certification status, this will be your next opportunity to become race day certified. And then you can start profiting from the low cost usage of all the tools, including RaceJoy. And so it really becomes, it pays for itself many times over by getting that certification status. And then you can start using all the tools at next to no cost. So that's the end of our session today. And like I said, Kevin and I are really happy to be here with you today. So we'll just kind of wave and say, let's see, get the camera come back up here. Yeah, great. Okay, good. And Kevin, good. So I see some people joined. I really appreciate you guys joining today, and I hope this was of value to you. And we do have some more advanced map building sessions out there, but this was meant to really be a refresher, and so that you can kind of get going with your maps. So have a great day, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.